We have another legendary banner for the month of September 2022. Today we'll be briefly going over all the units on the banner, discuss what skills are available, and of course talk about the latest legendary hero. For this month we are getting legendary Ninian, who has received some changes from past forms. The biggest change is that she is no longer infantry. She is a Green Dragon Cavalry unit and a water parrot legendary that boosts resistance. Why the change? I don't know, but she will join the Fey Dragon Realm Gods as one of the few Dragon Calves available. Ninian will still be a dancer though, so she will prove useful no matter what you want to do with her. In the trailer, we did get to see her stats, and take into account pair up with Nils, her actual stats should be 44 HP, 37 attack, 41 speed, 22 defense, and 24 res. Ninian retains her somewhat high base HP, but instead of a sub 30 attack, this time she has some damage to deal. Her speed is still pretty high, her defenses are on the lower side, although not the biggest deal if you use Ninian the way her kit wants you to. We recently had Fallen Ninian earlier this year who had some amazing support power, but doesn't really have a ton of offensive presence. Legendary Ninian is making a change to that game plan. For old skills, Ninian is bringing the firepower with attack and speed catch 4, speed and res near trace 3, and blue feud 3. Very surprising offensive kit to see. For her weapon, Ninian has the Faithful Breath, 60 might with plus 2 attack of all things, bringing her up to 56 attack total at base. If she uses Dance, inflict -6 defense and res on the nearest foes within 4 spaces of Ninian and her target ally. For her own combat, if she has more than 40% HP, she gets +6 attack and speed, offensive no follow-up on initiation, and if you initiate against a blue foe or a foe with a penalty active, then they cannot counterattack back. On the support side, Ninian has essentially a better version of defense and res cantrip, the debuffs emit from herself and the danced ally. Combat-wise, Faithful Breath is extremely similar to Summer Nifl's Dragonstone, mainly offensive no follow-up combined with Fire Sweep to avoid counterattacks. For the counterattack portion, Ninian has to have Weapon Triangle Advantage, aka this only works on blue enemies. However, it also works if the debuff is active on the foe. That's good because she debuffs enemies after dancing an ally. Remember, she also has 3 movement this time as a cavalry unit. If you're wondering how Ninian would get to use those debuffs, this is what her unique Dragon's Dance takes advantage of. On turn 1, grants another action to an ally, just like any other dance. But on turn 2 onward, though in addition to refreshing an ally, Ninian gets another action herself. She gets a +6 second speed field buff, and she inflicts isolation on herself. These apply to her pair-up cohort as well. What this means is that legendary Ninian can dance an ally, debuff the nearest enemies, use her extra action to attack them with Fire Sweep to not get hit back, and then she can use Near Trace Kanto to escape afterwards. This is why she has so much offensive power in her kit. However, Dragon's Dance only provides these benefits on turn 2 or later, and after you use it, it cannot trigger the extra benefits for another 3 turns. That part is very important to keep in mind. While Dragon's Dance can be quite powerful, unlike legendary Lucina or Crom, Ninian cannot freely abuse the extra action every single turn. If you dance an ally on turn 2, you trigger the extra effects, and you have to wait 3 turns to use it again. This might mess you up depending on the situation. You also have to keep in mind that she isolates herself, so Ninian cannot dance a second time in the same turn. Plus, none of these effects kick in on turn 1, which might limit her usage on defense setups potentially. Speaking of defense teams though, it's also possible Ninian just suicides straight into the enemy as she has 3 movement now, so you better make sure she has her Fire Sweep effect active. To be fair though, unless the enemy has no C disrupt, she might still be very annoying to deal with, especially if warping capabilities are in play for her teammates. Overall, I feel like legendary Ninian took a very interesting turn considering her recent Fallen ult actually is pretty heavily in the support role. She is technically kinda a secondary combative unit here. She may not be killing everyone out there, but offensive no follow-up with Fire Sweep is pretty dang good on a dancer. Ninian has some okay base attack with full offensive skills though, so definitely shouldn't be underestimated. She even has blue feud to further lean into the Weapon Triangle Advantage. I do like that she can debuff enemies, then attack, which triggers Fire Sweep regardless, but in general content, this may still be an issue if you're surrounded. As for the self-refreshing portion, I am glad the devs tried to balance it out with some big downsides. It would have been pretty crazy if Ninian could just have 2 actions every turn. Even though she has to wait 3 turns to use it again, she does have Near Trace, so she can still dance normally then Kanto to reposition. That's a great perk to have. Unfortunately, even if it would require some setup, Ninian as a dragon unit cannot run Gale Force. That would have been really nuts to see with Dragon's Dance. While her base kit is pretty dang solid, I do imagine Wings of Mercy will be a fun option for big one-turn plays. You warp in, you dance, then you move again, and maybe you can snipe a weaker enemy. With Fire Sweep and Kanto, Ninian might be able to set up some fun follow-ups for her teammates. Replace Blue Feud with some kind of debuff that kicks in after she attacks. You could try Savage Blow stacking to hit and run, or even just Defense Res Smoke 3 for Pathfinder maneuvers. That could be a really annoying thing to deal with, although unless you fight a blue unit, you're gonna need a penalty on the enemy, otherwise she might just die to a counterattack. For the most part, Legend Ninian should be a fun addition to any team, but I wouldn't expect her to be killing everything in her way. She's going to be pretty annoying, but there are limitations to her shenanigans, so you do have to plan things out. Something interesting to keep in mind is that if you clear Isolation, you should be able to then dance a second time. Generally speaking, this is not possible with the usual methods, but Ymir can cleanse Isolation on Ninian since her abilities have an AoE effect. Dual Alms, Dual Skill cleanses penalty and an AoE. There is also Dual Peony who can refresh dancers from any game with their Dual Skill. Ninian just needs to end her turn, which clears Isolation. Not sure if it's practical, but there are a few ways to get around Isolation, and maybe that can lead into some chaotic big brain plays. Something else that needs testing is that what if the 3-turn cooldown on Dragon's Dance is itself a penalty? You can see it on Ninian in the trailer, so if you cleanse that, would you then be able to spam Dragon's Dance extra effects again? I highly doubt it, but this is a new mechanic, so I don't know. If you could get rid of it though, then things get a whole lot more interesting. Moving on, we have 11 other heroes on the banner to talk about. In red we have Regan, Legendary Lelina, and Fallen Lilith. Blue has Not, Legendary Female Byleth, and Fallen Ninian. What a coincidence. In green we have the new Legendary Ninian, Legendary Xander, and the male Legendary Byleth. Colorless then has Milla, Ascended Florina, and Tine. Starting off the red group is Mythic Regan, a Sword Cavalry Astromythic, and the free unit of Book 5. Everyone has her, so most should be familiar with her instantly charged Save the Shell special and the powerful Kanto 3 for 4 turns. Skill wise, Regan is pretty solid fodder, so Spell 3 continues to be a fine A skill, and you can grab it with low speed and defense 3 easily. You can also get Panic Smoke 3 if you want some debuffs, can't go wrong with more Regan copies. Next is Legendary Lelina, a red mage cav with incredible firepower. She is so fun that they basically copied this ult for her recent Valentine's ult and made her blue. Studied 4 Blaze has excited specials and grants -1 cooldown on turn 1. This pre-charges Gifted Magic, which is a unique AoE special. It's weaker than the other AoE specials, but by being on 2 cooldown, Lelina can recharge it every fight, which is incredible. Technically speaking, her base kit is not that great for her. You would actually want the new Stillwater 4 that Valentine's Lelina comes with for flat attack and res at the cost of defense. Getting Far Trace Content in the B slot is also great for hit and run. In terms of fodder, Tech and Res Solo 4 is okay if you need it. Pulse Smoke 3 is also good in the C slot, but we have Sabotage Res on some Heroic Rail units. Last is Fallen Lilith, a red flying dragon who is an extremely valuable unit in terms of fodder. As a unit, she's a support partner dependent unit. If you start the turn near her support ally, Lilith and that ally get the no follow-up status, which is pretty cool. Lilith then gets to warp to any space within 2 spaces of her partner, so she can fly in from anywhere on the map. With her base kit, Lilith stacks a ton of attack and speed, and with no follow-up, she can double tap instantly with Dive Bomb. After combat, she applies Speed Smoke 4's buffs and debuffs, which while gaining dodge damage reduction. As mentioned, Fallen Lilith has some insane skills. Attack and Speed Catch 4 is top tier, Dive Bomb still rather rare, and then Speed Smoke 4 is a very fun skill for mixed phase speedsters. All in all, the red group is actually not that bad. Solid units and a lot of good skills. In the blue group, we have the infamous Not, a Lance Infantry Dark Mythic hero whose main trait is having Pathfinder. Not can create lots of attacking opportunities for defense teams, and she herself gets +5 dull stats with bonus doubler. She can stack a ton of stats if you got full field buffs. In addition, Moon Twin Fang inflicts -5 attack and speed on foes and grants dodge. Not then has Distant Counter and Attack and Speed Menace to be somewhat annoying. Generally speaking, Pathfinder alone makes Not valuable, while for fodder you can grab Distant Counter and Attack and Speed Menace in one go. Next is Legendary Female Byleth, a blue infantry mage. She is very offensive with excited specials, +5 tall stats, and tempo. Goddess Bearer is a self buff granting +7 attack and speed, the no follow-up status, and warping. Female Byleth is a bit trickier with her warp options and can pop Ruptured Sky on her second attack thanks to no guard. She has attack and speed ideal 4 and low speed and res for maximum damage output, but she can run wind or water sweep builds to stay safe. Professorial Guide does provide a 2-space support aura that grants tempo. No guard and no special charge for teammates is pretty neat as a bonus. In terms of fodder, pretty good value here. We have attack and speed ideal 3 on free-to-play options, so you can get it, or you can get the tier 4 with Ruptured Sky or low speed and res. Last up is Fallen Ninian, who is a blue infantry dragon and not like her legendary alt at all. She is full on support and has some amazing benefits. Instead of cantrip, she has attack and res ruse when dancing, so that's -7 attack and res debuffs and guard on foes in cardinal directions. With Call to Flame, she then gives allies a +6 attack buff and a status that gives +1 special charge every action. That is so fun to mess around with, and it's like Thor's Roadbreaker C skill. Call to Flame also gives dragon allies +1 movement, which is pretty neat. For skills, we have Blue Duo Infantry 4 to stack HP for Odd Pulse Tide 3, great for stopping pre-charge specials. Fallen Ninian then has Crossbow Attack for the long range +5 attack buffs. Personally, I think Fallen Ninian is an incredible dancer, multiple strong support perks all in one unit, and I would highly recommend keeping at least one copy. That brings us to the new legendary Ninian, who we discussed enough. In terms of skills, nothing new, but attack and speed catch 4 and speed and res near trace are obviously good. As for blue feud, it's nice to counter specific blue units. You can prevent blue units from getting buffs or stop blue support units from helping the target. Its usefulness depends on the type of meta units you face. Joining Ninian will be legendary Xander, which I believe is his first return. Xander is an offensive axe cavalier with some good perks. His main concern is starting to turn next to or near 2 allies within 2 spaces. That gets him the no follow-up status and +1 special charge for every action. Those are 2 very strong abilities for a cavalier. Ibn Boverg also accelerates specials and grants +5 to all stats and heals 7 HP after combat. You then got Chivalry, which inflicts -5 to everything but resistance, grants near trace Kanto, and Xander gets damage reduction based on 50% of the foe's current percent HP. If they're at full health, Xander gets 50% DR, which ain't bad at all. His res is not great, but Xander essentially gets +10 to all stats and 50% damage reduction. He also has a slew of good combative perks, but you do need to stay near allies. For fodder, we have attack and speed catch 4 again, and colorless viewed this time. Interestingly, the new Niffle and Moospa alts are colorless, so you can stop both of their Domain C skills. Last up is legendary Male Byleth, a green infantry mage who is different from his female counterpart slightly. Male Byleth has a more one-shot type playstyle. He can pre-charge Sublime Heaven with accelerated specials and times pulse. Sublime Heaven boosts damage based on 25% of Byleth's attack stat, and that stat becomes 50% against dragons and beasts. It also neutralizes percent damage reduction skills. This Byleth also has no follow-up and gives allies the no follow-up status. He then comes with attack and defense ideal 4 and low attack and res 3. He can actually tank a physical damage hit if Sublime Heaven doesn't finish the job. Keep in mind, the instant special playstyle though is pretty hard countered by Brave Tiki now. You gotta watch out for her. For skill inheriting, you can get attack and defense ideal 3 from Skahawk now, and that lets you pick up the tier 4 with either low attack and res or the potent times pulse. For those that want legendary Ninian, green isn't looking too bad. We got 2 chances for attack and speed catch 4 or a feud skill, and Male Byleth has 3 great skills as well. Finally, in colorless, we have Mythic Miller, a colorless infantry dragon and light mythic hero. She provides support while being tougher to take out. Her support weapon grants a gigantic +2 spectrum drive buffing zone. Miller's turn wheel inflicts isolation on foes in a line with her with lower defense, so stacking more defense can be useful. Miller also adds an extra turn when you're attacking, which is pretty cool. For other support abilities, she has Rally Defense Res Plus and Sabotage Attack 3. To stay alive herself, she has Brazen Stance 3, which may be good to inherit if you want a pure enemy phase tank. Base Rally Defense and Res is on Roderick, so it's pretty easy to get the plus version with Brazen Stance 3 if you want. Next is Ascended Florina, who is a flying colorless archer with lots of speed. She is a rather basic offensive unit with accelerated specials, +6 attack and speed, and 50% of her speed as true damage on hit. You then have attack and speed push 4, speed and defense for trace, and joint drive speed for more offensive stats. Florina can dish out some damage, but doesn't really have any protection, and she can't really punch through follow-up denial. With that said, she has some interesting support capabilities as well. She has the 2-space warp aura like Ash or Summertana. Then, if Florina is under 60% HP herself, any ally can warp directly next to her. This is like a reverse Wings of Mercy ability. It's not easy to get Florina to lower HP safely, but if you can do it, then there are some interesting possibilities on the table. In terms of fodder, you can get the prereqs for joint drive speed and attack and speed push from free-to-play units. Speed and defense far trace is actually only on this Florina, so if you want the offensive far trace for physical damage, then you're gonna need to summon for her. Last unit on the banner is Tina, a colorless infantry mage. She's a glass cannon with lots of attack and speed, and her Thunderbird Tome grants specials and gives -1 cooldown every turn for 3 turns, or if Tina is not full HP. With those same conditions, Tina gets +6 second speed, +7 damage on special trigger, and neutralizes % damage reduction skills when she triggers her special. Like Legendary Male Bot, Tina can pre-charge a special and negate damage reduction. It will take longer for her to get going, and she can't really take a strong hit, but she also is colorless. She can use Fury to take recoil damage safely, which keeps her tome active, but in general, Tina doesn't want to take a hit, so no follow-up may not be as useful for her. Perhaps Special Spiral would be more fun to continuously recharge higher cooldown specials. I do think Tina is pretty potent as a mage. She's pretty strong. For Fodder, you can get Fury 4 with no follow-up, or Blue Feud once again. That'll be it for this month's Legendary banner. Quite a surprise to see Legendary Ninian actually go for an offensive route this time, and suddenly she's a cavalry unit. To be honest, I will definitely forget she has big movement. Personally, I don't think she will turn to a huge issue like Legendary Zero back in the day. She has some restrictions to her unique abilities, and while annoying to KO thanks to Fire Sweep, I don't see her taking out super well built blue units. I do think there is room to play around her Fire Sweep initiations, but you also need to plan well since Dragon's Dance has that 3-turn cooldown. Regardless, Legendary Ninian is still a 3-movement dancer with near choice Kanto, so I think she'll be great to have around. As I've always said, you can never go wrong with more dancers. For those looking for skill fodder, I did not cover it, but we got a special 8-man seasonal banner to celebrate the Rearm Terra launch. Lots of amazing units and skills are available on that banner. We got 4 Kanto beat skills, Valentine's Gustav's godlike near safe fodder, and Dual Hilda plus Harmonic Catra are available as well. We also got some free tickets to spend if you missed that. That'll be it for me though. Good luck if you're planning to summon on this banner, and thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.